friends, and welcome to the channel. I'm Olivia, and if you've never seen my face before, as you see behind me, I am a fragrance enthusiast, reviewer, whatever you'd like to call me. And if you have seen my face before, hello my darlings, how are we today? So if you guys didn't catch it last week, I did an entire video showing you my fragrance collection, but it was an incredibly long video and I still wasn't able to show you everything because my collection is nearing 400. So we split it into two, and today is going to be the continuation of last week's video where I will be showing you my second half of fragrances. So if you want to see a massive collection, just keep watching. And if you're new and fragrance is your thing, go ahead and give me a follow. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok under the same name, oliviaolfactory. And without further ado, let's get into the fragrances. So this is the first shelf that we will be starting with today, starting off with my Initio fragrances. So this is Side Effect by Initio. This is a vanilla fragrance with tobacco and booze and a little bit of cinnamon, and it is a total powerhouse. Next is the arguably best oud fragrance that I have in my collection. This is Oud for Greatness. This is a spicy, strong, super masculine fragrance, although I know a lot of women like to wear it, so if you want a super powerful oud, check this one out. Next is my juice box fragrances, starting off with Cheeky Smile. This is one of your Skin But Better Ambroxan ISO-y super type fragrances, but it is so strong. You only need a couple sprays of this. So it's not going to be like Juliet Has a Gun, not a perfume. This is on another level. So if you like ambery fragrances, this one is a good one. This is my favorite from Juicebox. This is Siren and Sailors, and this was inspired by Amy Winehouse. This has raspberry and osmanthus. It also has some suede and a little bit of booziness as well. Really gorgeous fragrance. Next is Visionary Eye, and this was inspired by David Bowie. And this is a powdery iris fragrance. It's got some aromatics like lavender. Once again, an ultra long-lasting fragrance. This house does not make weak fragrances. Let me tell you that. They're expensive, but they are full worth it because you only need a couple sprays. Next is by the House of Gallagher, and this is called Tonkajur, and this has blueberry, it has neroli, it has champagne. This is a sparkling, effervescent floral fragrance, and I have gotten some very interesting comments while wearing this fragrance. A man told me he was melting while smelling this, so I think that's a good thing. Next is Wicked Good by Gallagher, and if you like chocolate fragrances, you guys have to try this. This is chocolate and vanilla, it's powdery, and it smells like a Tootsie Roll. Lastly, from the House of Gallagher, this is Midnight Jasmine. This is an indolic jasmine, but it also smells like a warm cinnamon apple pie. So there's some strong gourmand elements as well as a very strong jasmine. This is Belinda from Perlanera. This is an affordable Arab fragrance house with really good fragrances, really good quality, good bottles, and good lasting power. This one kind of reminds me of Ignutia by Perfume Aroma that I talked about last week. It has a fresh green scent to it. Almost smells a little bit like eucalyptus or mint. Next is Luna, and if you guys like the scent of Herbal Essence conditioner, this smells exactly like it. It smells so freaking good, and I've had a lot of people ask if I could do a video about fragrances that smell like shampoo, so if you guys are interested, let me know. Next is Bianca, and this reminds me so much of Good Girl by Carolina Herrera. If you like that sweet, sexy, date night feminine fragrance, you'll love this. This is much more smoothly blended than Carolina Herrera Good Girl, which can be a little bit harsh. This is like the most creamy version. Lastly from the house is Ataraxia, and this one reminds me of Black Opium, but once again, it's really smooth. I think Black Opium's florals can almost sometimes come off a little bit like acetone. They're so sharp and piercing, versus this is a little bit more creamy and the coffee is a little bit more prominent. It's super sexy. Next is No Shade for Nomad by Alexandria Fragrances. They are an inspired by house, so this is inspired by Ombre Nomad by Louis Vuitton. This is a strong leathery oud fragrance with some aromatic qualities. This is ultra sexy. I smelled the original on a man in a jazz club and I immediately needed to know what it was. I got my hands on this inspired by version, and when I tell you the performance of this is absolutely immaculate. These are heavy bottles. They are so super powerful and long lasting. So if you're looking for one of the best inspired by houses, Alexandria Fragrances takes the cake. But they also do really good originals. So this is a house original. It's called Cacao Dreams. And this is a powdery, delicious, sweet chocolate, but it almost reminds me of that burnt caramelized sugar that you get in Pink Sugar from Aquilina without smelling like a burnt plastic pool toy. I hate that smell. So just think of the good parts of it mixed with chocolate. That's what this smells like. A very well-known and well-loved fragrance. This is Intense Cafe by Montal. This is a rose coffee vanilla fragrance, total beast mode, and it's the original. I have a lot like these, but I genuinely can't get over the scent profile. I think it's just so sexy in winter. Next is Sensual Instinct by Montal, and a lot of people say that this smells like Baccarat Rouge, but I would have to deeply disagree. This has a jammy rose, oak moss that gives it a little bit of an earthiness, and I could understand where they're getting the reference, but this really has nothing to do with Baccarat Rouge. Okay, we're on to another shelf. So let's start out with my Le Labo fragrances. First is Tonka 25, and this is more of a layering tool in my collection. It's a quite straightforward Tonka, so it gives a nice powdery, slight nutty touch, but it's also a little bit dark and a little bit spiced, so I like to put this in to make things a little bit more wintry. Te Matcha 26 is a delicious creamy matcha fragrance with fig. It's also got some sandalwood. This is so cozy and so comforting. And to think when I got this, I wasn't really impressed. And as I wore it, it just really did some magic on the skin. Neroli 36. Now, I'm not a fan of neroli, but oddly enough, to me, this smells like the beach. Tropical and floral. It smells a bit like suntan lotion, albeit a very expensive suntan lotion, but I still enjoy it. Now, you guys already know my baby, Thé Noir 29. This is also a fig fragrance, but this is a black tea. It's got bay leaf, so it's a little bit aromatic. This is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. Completely unisex, a little dark and moody, very dry, and a must-have if you like tea fragrances. Ambrette number 9, this is obviously an ambrette fragrance, but this has a muskiness to it. It also has some aldehydes that give it a clean, sparkling scent, and there's a little bit of an ambery dry down, but it's pretty straightforward. I feel like this and Tonka are a little bit expensive for what they offer, but the other ones are a little bit more complex. So if you were looking into the brand, I would say this one and Tonka are not really that necessary for the price. Rose 31. Now this one is very interesting. This is a natural green, almost slightly spicy rose, and there's a dirtiness to it because it has the note of cumin, which can come off a little bit like body odor, but I enjoy it a lot. So you kind of have to like the scent of cumin to get along with this one. Next is Bergamot 22. This is obviously a bergamot fragrance, but this is a dry vetiver as well. So you've got a tart citrus, but you've got some dry, earthy, almost hay-like notes. It makes it very refreshing and perfect as a unisex summer fragrance. And a fragrance that needs no introduction is another 13. If you try anything from Le Labo, try this fragrance. This layers with absolutely everything. It is a Your Skin But Better molecular fragrance that just smells sexy. To me, it smells a little bit masculine. This is just the most alluring fragrance on its own, but layered with other things, you will create brand new fragrances if you add this with it. Moving on to my fragrances from the maker, the first one we have is Paradiso. So this is a tropical floral patchouli fragrance, but the way that the patchouli reads to my nose in this fragrance is it smells like a fruity marijuana. Next is Stag, and the notes on this seem very intense, but this is actually a lighter fragrance. It does have good lasting power, it's just not very thick. So it's got resin, it's got oud and leather and Palo Santo, but to me, this is sheer incense Palo Santo fragrance. Very natural smelling for those of you who don't like to smell perfumey. Next is Naked, and if you like glossy you'll definitely like this fragrance. It's along the same lines of orris and white musk, but this has the added note of carrot, which gives a slightly sweet but also slightly dirty element, along with Angelica that gives this a little bit more of a green approach. So if you like powdery, slightly green, second skin sort of fragrances, that is Naked by the maker. This one is absolutely my favorite from the house. This is Fire, and this is going to be a wintertime scent because this has rum and tobacco, vanilla, tonka bean, and sandalwood. This is so creamy, it's smoky, it's sweet, but also earthy and woody. It is just the best. If you guys try anything from this video, I really recommend, if you like tobacco, to get your hands on this. Next is Wild, and this is a sheer aquatic sweet floral. It's got peach and water lily, but it also has some patchouli to give it some depth. So these do have good staying power, but this is a little bit more aquatic and fresh take on a floral. Moving on to my House of Zimmer, this is Alchemy. This is a suede, sandalwood, slightly spiced, really comforting fragrance. If you're looking for something that feels fluffy, it's slightly sweet, but also not overpoweringly so. Those kind of fragrances that you imagine you're curled up by the fireplace with a warm blanket. Next is Strange Paradise. This smells like a boozy pina colada, but it also has some powderiness along with it. So if you're kind of sick of coconut fragrances and they all kind of smell the same to you, this one is quite unique. Smoke and Roses. This one is quite similar to Intense Cafe, but Intense Cafe has quite a synthetic type scent to it, whereas this smells very natural. This is your coffee, chocolate, vanilla rose fragrance. It's sweet, it's dark, it's sensual, and if you like rose, this is so stunning. And out of that scent profile, I would say that this one is my favorite. Last from Zimmer, we have Tessa's Tea Party. This is like a chilled white tea fragrance. It has some hibiscus and pomegranate. This smells like summer. Moving on to the House of Room 1015, this is Cherry Punk. This is a super sweet syrupy cherry that dries down to have a leathery touch. So it is a little bit medicinal in the beginning, but as it warms up to your skin, that leather comes through, making this very sexy and very dark. My personal favorite from the house is called Electric Wood, and this is supposed to smell like a vintage guitar. So you have a dry cedar wood, but you also have the resin that holds it together. So it's a little bit balsamic, a little bit sweet, very dry, woody, and this is, in my opinion, the best woody fragrance I have in my entire collection. Lastly is Sonic Flower, and just as I mentioned Glossier You before, this is going to be another iris powdery fragrance with some slight green nuances to it. So it's a little bit redundant in my collection, but these are really good to wear to bed or to run errands in. Next is Praline and Maple by Scents of Wood. This is a winter fragrance through and through. You've got some beautiful roasted chestnut along with a dry cedar, but you're getting a little bit of sweetness from a Peru balsam, and you've got a little bit of spiciness from some pink and black pepper. And to me, this smells a little bit like maple syrup on pancakes in a rustic log cabin. Next is Vetiver in Bloom, and to me this is actually a powdery lilac fragrance. It's a little bit sweet, but it also has some dry earthy qualities like vetiver. It also has a little bit of patchouli, but if you're not a fan of patchouli, to me this is just a sweet powdery lilac fragrance. Very natural smelling, very beautiful. This is Grandmaster by Mind Games, and just as I've talked about my coffee rose fragrances, this is a completely different take because in this you have incense, you have myrrh that gives a natural smoky sweetness but is by far less sweet than the others in my collection. You also have the note of panettone on the dry down, and you've got a really beautiful regal ebony wood. So this is dark and woody, definitely more on the unisex side. So if you like that rose coffee sort of combination, but you want something that's not so sweet and a little bit more masculine, this one is incredible. Next is Sandal Sun by Hermetica. This is a nutty vanilla fragrance, so you have hazelnut and vanilla, but you also get a bit of powderiness and a bit of floral from heliotrope, as well as a musk and a little bit of chocolate. From the House of Beau, we have Infinite Oud. If you are afraid of oud fragrances, you need to check this one out because this is the most wearable oud that I have. It's got some cedar, making it a little bit more dry, along with a little bit of a spiciness from black pepper and patchouli, but it also has a myrrh that gives it a slight sweetness. And although the notes sound very heavy, this is sheer yet long lasting. And I'm going to lump these last three together because they all have a similar undertone with different top notes. So this is from the brand Eccentric Molecules, and if you've ever tried Eccentric Molecules, the base of all of their fragrances is ISOE Super, so that your skin but better, slightly woody, slightly amber fragrance. So we have ginger that gives a bit of tartness, black tea which is very dry with with no sweetness, and guaiac wood that smells very smoky, almost like hickory barbecue. Starting off with the brand Piper and Pero, this is called Arid, and this is a blood orange fragrance. It has a dry vetiver with a juniper that gives a little bit of sweetness and some suede in the dry down. Very cool aromatic fragrance, a little bit unique, but I love this house. They offer some really interesting fragrances. Next is Bud, and this is a rose fragrance, but it has notes of whiskey. It also has rhubarb that gives a little bit of tart freshness. The pineapple leaf in here reads a little bit like aftershave. So to me, this actually smells like a Ken doll that I had as a kid that you could shave his face with this shaving cream. It kind of smells like that. The minute I smelled it, I was like, I know this fragrance. But it also kind of has the DNA of the rose that you find in Shagaf Oud, a more Middle Eastern type rose. Next is Berg, and although this is a coconut fragrance, this smells like cold ocean air. So this is a really unique take on a coconut fragrance. Lastly is Veil. This is a musky fragrance, but it has notes of pear. And to me, this is both slightly a powdery musk, but also aquatic, cooling, and fresh. So if you need something that's really refreshing, second skin, but also has a little bit of tart sweetness in there, I would check out Veil. Next is Mandorle by Soradora. So we're moving on to my Soradora collection. This is a powdery heliotrope fragrance, but this has the notes of suede that give it an animalic touch, along with some rum that give it a booziness, and in the heart of it, it is a vanilla, so it has that creamy sweetness along with a cacao. Next is Orchidée Rouge. This is also a vanilla fragrance, but this has the note of almond. This also has a bit of benzoin, giving it some warmth along with an elemi resin, and there's a little bit of cinnamon and some floral nuance. Camel Oud is quite a peculiar fragrance. This smells like a kitchen cabinet. So all the spices in your kitchen cabinet along with the dry woody cabinet itself. It is very dry, very spicy, and strong on the cumin, so if you're not a fan of cumin, you're not gonna like this. I imagine that not a lot of people would enjoy this, but there's something about this that I really like. There's also a bit of an ambery resinous quality to give it just a slight hint of sweetness in the dry down. Lastly is Gladiator. This reminds me of Creed Aventus, but this has a spicy mint. So this has an earthy, herbal, bright, aquatic touch. It is a fantastic masculine fragrance. Speaking of masculine fragrances, let's move on to my Born to Stand Out fragrances, starting with this one. This is Zest ZNT, and this is a gin and tonic fragrance. So you get some dryness, you get some herbaceous qualities coming from juniper and lemon verbena, along with a cardamom that gives a little bit of warmth, and a sage. Dirty Rice is absolutely one of my favorite fragrances from this house. This is almost like an unsweetened almond milk. The almond with the rice almost create a slightly milky yet thin consistency, and there is just a very slight hint of sweetness with a woody dry down. Mud is a milky fragrance, so this is also kind of along the lines of almond milk, but this has chocolate and plum, along with an elemi in the dry down, giving this a little bit of a resinous quality, so it's creamy, slightly sweet, a little bit dirty, and delicious. Fig Porn, by no surprise to anybody, is a fig fragrance, but a lot of fig fragrances can tend to be very green. In contrast, this is a ripe purple fig, and it's made even sweeter with the note of pear. And you have Turkish rose and peony. So it has a slight floral nuance, but it's definitely not a strong rose, and it has a beautiful, warm, ambery, musky vanilla dry down. Next is DGAF, and this is an aromatic citrus. So you have sage, you have bergamot, but you also have a powdery violet and a spicy black pepper. And this last one is definitely noteworthy. It is such a gorgeous fragrance because you have some sweet red berries in the beginning, along with cognac to give it a dry booziness. You've got a spicy cardamom that makes this feel very elegant, along with a creamy sandalwood vanilla. Throwing it back to a very old school fragrance, this is from the house of Issey Miyake, and this is called L'Eau de Issey. This is a very aquatic floral fragrance. So to me, it smells like Aquage hair products, and and is an incredible long-lasting fragrance because a lot of the aquatic fragrances that we have these days truly cannot compare in lasting power to this. And this is actually older than me. This came out in 1992 and I was born in 1993. I'm sure a lot of you guys recognize this. This is J'adore, but specifically this is the Absolute version. So this is a soapy jasmine fragrance. It's a little bit mature, but for that I really enjoy it. I feel very womanly when I wear this. It smells clean, but it smells like I have my shit together. Let's move on to my Abbott fragrances. This one is called Papaya Isla, and to me this doesn't smell like papaya because papaya actually smells like stomach acid or bile, and you could actually Google that there are in fact similarities between stomach acid and papaya. So that doesn't smell anything like it. It smells fruity, but also smells green, like you're walking through a tropical jungle. And you also have an Ambroxan ISO-E Super molecular fragrance dry down. Next is Montecito, and this is quite a simple yet effective fragrance. So this is a tangy grapefruit. It has some jasmine that's not indolic, and it has a dry, clean vetiver. Next is Mojave, and this is a spicy ginger citrus fragrance. So you have some bergamot and you have black pepper that even amps up the spiciness of the ginger, but you also have tobacco leaf and saffron. So this does have something interesting to it. Lastly, we have Crescent Beach, and to me this smells so much like Blanche by Byredo. This is your clean laundry fragrance. It literally smells like laundry detergent and soap. There's nothing more to say about it, but it is one of my favorite fragrance categories. So for those of you who know, you know, we chase fragrances like this. Even if they smell similar, it doesn't matter. We love the clean and fresh. Moving on to the house of Noteworthy. This is a house where you can actually take a quiz online, specify what you enjoy, and they will send you samples to help you figure out which specific fragrances you enjoy. I've worked with them many times. You might have seen my ads online. Not sponsored by them right now, but I really actually enjoy this process because I felt like the fragrances that they paired me with, I really like them and they fit what I had asked for. So this is 743, and this is a warm floral fragrance. Once again, this kind of reminds me a little bit of Good Girl from Carolina Herrera because this is a tuberose fragrance that also has vanilla, but this one is quite a bit more fresh because you've got bergamot and apple that give it a little bit more sweet and a little bit less nighttime. So if Good Girl was a little bit too sexy, a little bit too date night, if you want a day version, this one would be great. Next is a really great masculine option. This is 619. This has juniper and grapefruit, geranium and lavender, and I'm not a big fan of lavender, but this is a sexy, clean, perfect everyday sort of fragrance. It reminds me a little bit of Sauvage because it does have a slight sweetness along with being aromatic, but I still like it and I still like Sauvage, so there. 441 is a clean white musk fragrance while also having almost a brown sugar undertone. So if you can imagine a clean white musk meets sugar cookies, that's what this smells like. It's really caramelized, it's sweet but also powdery. It is so enjoyable. If you try any of them, I think this one is a safe bet. Speaking of sugar cookie, this one kind of has a similar vibe going on. This is 144, but this is a citrus sugar cookie. So you have citrus, lemon blossom, vanilla, and musk. On to the next shelf. Starting with Blanche Bette, this is a powdery, very milky, very floral fragrance. It is so sweet and delicious, but you have to really like a true prominent tuberose, otherwise this is going to be a little bit suffocating. I have a few from Dossier. This is their version of Thé Noir. It's actually pretty good in my opinion. I feel like it smells very similar. It's lacking a little bit of depth. This is Powdery Hawthorn. This is their version of Metalique by Tom Ford. It is a powdery aldehydic fragrance, very floral, and I like this one for occasional days, but it's a little bit of a challenging wear, although I do enjoy it very much. This is Woody Rum. This is their version of Killian Straight to Heaven. This is so spot on. The performance of it isn't as good, but obviously the price is so much different, but this is a very sexy, deep, masculine fragrance for date night. This is Woody Sage. This is their version of Wood Sage and Sea Salt by Jo Malone. This is very similar, although I think this has a little bit more grapefruit in my opinion, and it's a good, clean, fresh, everyday scent. And this is Citrus Green Apple, and this is their version of Light Blue by Dolce & Gabbana. Super duper duper similar performance, similar notes. If you like light blue, you'll like this. A tiny bottle of Replica Beach Walk. This is a creamy tropical floral. It smells a bit like sunscreen, but much more refined. This is from the brand Sphinx. This is called Heavenly Lilies. This is sheer, yet decently long lasting, and it's a really beautiful composition. It's got tuberose and carnation, gardenia. It's got some saffron, almond, and coffee. So you would think that it'd be a bit heavy, but it's actually not whatsoever. It's a delicate floral with some really balanced nuance. Next is from their masculine line. This is called First Date. This has some aromatics in the beginning like thyme and bay leaf, but it also has coconut, caramel, musk, vanilla, so it's sweet, it's aromatic, it's a little bit floral, and I personally find this to be very unisex. This one is called Strawberry Kiss. It is a delicious gourmand fragrance. It's got milk and strawberries, it's powdery, and it has some burnt sugar accord. Another one from their masculine line, this is called Black Anubis. Once again, this is a saffron rose oud fragrance, but this has much more of a masculine approach with some leather and amber. And lastly, we have Damaskina. This is a rose fragrance. It has notes of pear, musk, and patchouli, and this layered with Delina Exclusive is so gorgeous. If you like Delina Exclusive, I'm more than willing to bet that you'd like this one. It's definitely not a dupe, but they are similar. The rose reads very similar to me. This one is an affordable Arab fragrance. This is from the house of Al Haramain, and this is Laventure Rose. Another rose vanilla fragrance, very affordable, very powerful, and very, very well blended. Laventure Femme, unfortunately I broke my bottle here because I dropped it. This smells exactly like Creed Aventus for her. It is powerful and commanding and kind of smells like the hybrid between a feminine perfume and a men's cologne. Another super affordable Arab fragrance, this is Ajwad by Latafa, and no surprise, this is another rose vanilla, but this is a beast. You can get this for $20 online, and this will stay on your clothes until you wash them. So if you are also a rose vanilla fanatic, this one is for you. Deep in Desire Yacht from BDK. This smells like a delicious tart blueberry pastry with citrus. It is so delectable, but I don't love the ordering process of these. You have to message the company directly on Instagram and they'll send you an invoice. I mean, it got to me fine and it wasn't, a sketchy transaction. I just think it's kind of a weird way to order things. Fan Your Flames by Nishane. This is a coconut rum and tobacco fragrance. It's a little bit peculiar because of the oak moss in the base gives it a very earthy feel, so it almost comes across a bit leathery. Very humongous powerhouse. So although expensive, very, very incredible performance on these if you like tobacco. Acro Bake smells like a lemon tart bar. It's custardy. You can almost smell the graham cracker crust along with the gooey, yummy, tart, sour, cold filling of the tart bar. Brie Charnel by BDK. This is a fig black tea fragrance. It's spiced and it's creamy. It's such a comforting scent. Milk Plus by Commodity. Obviously it's a milk fragrance, but it has notes of marshmallow with a strong, spicy, woody dry down, so it kind of smells like roasted marshmallows. Alien Goddess Intense by Mugler. This is a coconut vanilla fragrance, but unlike the original, this is a lot more dominant in white florals and has an ambery dry down, and the florals in this are a touch bit indolic. Je sais Accident à la Vanille Creme de la Berry. This smells like Captain Crunch berries, or it smells like a berry cheesecake where you once again can smell that graham cracker crust and the creamy filling with the chilled berries on top. Fragrance One Day for Women. This is Jeremy Fragrance's line. I actually met him recently and he gave this to me. So this is a beautiful, sweet floral fragrance. It has osmanthus, apricot, and benzoin. So it's warm, it's sweet, very feminine, and the performance of these are nuclear. And it smells very high quality. So although online a lot of people say, oh, it smells cheap, it smells like this, you know what? It doesn't at all. I think people have a poor opinion of him, and so they trash talk the fragrance, but from an objective standpoint, this is a very, very good fragrance. Sorry, this last one is a little bit awkward because it's on the floor, but we're gonna make it work. This is Dirty Hinoki from Heretic. This is a beautiful, dry, woody fragrance, and it lays over top the Le Labo lotion Hinoki scent very, very well. So if you like that lotion, you'll love this fragrance. Voce Viva Intenza by Valentino. This is an orange blossom fragrance with a bourbon vanilla. It is quite a floral dominant fragrance, but it has some sweet boozy qualities as well. Very sexy. Here we have A La Rose by MFK. This is from their masculine line, and this is a fresh aromatic masculine rose fragrance. You don't see rose often in men's fragrances, and this is done in a really fresh way, yet somehow still lasts a very long time. This is the regular Alien Goddess. This smells a bit like sunscreen. It's fresh. It's more of a coconut water as to a creamy coconut like the Intense. I prefer the Intense because it's a little bit more dark, but this is fun for daytime. Wild Poppy by Nest is a super bombastic fragrance. It's bold and floral. It's got rose and jasmine, and it also has pear and raspberry. Elysium Eau Intense by Roja. This is a men's fragrance, but it's super duper multifaceted. It's simultaneously aquatic, yet sweet, yet dark at the same time. So this is a perfect staple fragrance for any of the men in your life. You or Someone Like You by Eldo. This is a mint-based fragrance, so it's definitely very refreshing and has a cooling sensation. Sulapo Mirabeau by Eldo. This kind of smells like Santal 33's younger brother had a baby with Joe Malone's wood sage and sea salt. So if you like something woody, aquatic, aromatic, and fresh, this is super refreshing and very long lasting. This is Temptatio by V Canto. This smells a lot like Herba Pura if you were to make it less sickeningly sweet and add a note of oud. From Confessions of a Rebel, we have Bite Me. This is a fruity, boozy fragrance. So you have apple, you have strawberry, but you also have rum and you have jasmine. Next, we have Love High. This has apple and peach with jasmine and sandalwood. If you like Light Blue by Dolce & Gabbana, you would like this. This is my personal favorite from the brand. I had a decant of this many, many years ago, and I didn't have a label on it, so I had no clue what it was. And when I smelled this, it felt like I was reuniting with a lost love, because this is such a gorgeous fragrance. It has vanilla and cypress, so it's a little bit green, but still smooth and sweet. It also has sage and apple, and reminds me a bit of G Water from Byredo. So if you like G Water, you will like this. Dirty Coconut by Heretic. This is a dry, woody, husky coconut with some molecular undertones, and it doesn't have much sweetness, so if you want a coconut that's not sweet, this one would be good. 13 Stems by Relevant. This is a very green fragrance. It has notes of violet and mimosa. It's got some black pepper and leather. 2 from the House of Huron. This is a men's grooming company. These are just light and refreshing. You have the citrus and eucalyptus, and you have the sandalwood and black pepper, and it's more of a daytime, nighttime sort of combo. As you can see, I have quite a few Elysian fragrances, but I don't want to show them on camera because when you tilt them, they leak and they don't have the names on them. Although they make great fragrances, the quality of the bottles and them not having any sort of label on them is pretty wonky. And lastly, I have my travel sizes, so I'm just gonna go over these quickly because I know this video is gonna be really long. I actually just received these ones. These are from Soki London. She is a reviewer here on YouTube, and I have been watching her from the very beginning. I haven't got much to say because I just got these in the mail, but I will keep you guys updated. I have the men's and women's version of Elvis fragrances that I got when I was at Graceland. I have this Desert Glam rollerball from Skylar, but I have a deep, deep detest of rollerballs. They send me these all the time. While I feel bad giving them away, I really don't like rollerballs. They just gross me out. So I have a couple that I've kept, but I haven't touched this one yet. I was sent 3 perfume boosters. These are supposed to help longevity. So I'm going to be testing these out and telling you guys what I think. I have 2 from the house of Veronique Goodbye. This one is called Ready for Rosé, and this one is called Cap Antibes. I have 4 from Dead Cool. This is Smiley Face Garden. This is very green and fresh and floral. I have Milk and Extra Milk. These are the Your Skin But Better, good for layering fragrances. And I have blonde, and this one reminds me a bit of a green version of Givenchy Haute Couture, the EDP, not the EDT. I have travel sizes of the Define Me fragrances that I talked about last week. This is Delphine, and this is Audrey. I also talked about these ones last week. These are Fleur fragrances. I have Missing Person and Not Your Baby in a travel size. And in Kayali, I have Deja Vu and Love Fest Burning Cherry. For Juliet Has a Gun, I actually don't have these in a full size. This one is Lust for Sun, and this one is Vanilla Vibes. This one is a salty vanilla, and Lust for Sun is a creamy coconut with a strong ylang. I have a travel size of Princess by Kilian, and I'm thinking about getting a full-size bottle. Creamy matcha, delicious marshmallow. I have had this little travel size of Black Opium for so long, and sometimes when I go out to bars, I like to put that on because it's a fun, skanky little scent. I have Bouquet d'Angry by BDK, and if I'm being honest, this smells exactly like Daisy, so don't pay the BDK price and just get Daisy instead. This is the original Alien. I have had this for years. To be honest, it is just way too powdery and strong for me. I'm not into it. From Nest, I have Wisteria Blue. This is a clean floral shower gel type fragrance. I have an itty bitty decant of Amouage Guidance, and I'm gonna get a full-size bottle of this. I have the oil version of Worthy by Mudo. This is a beautiful vanilla skin scent. I also have a travel size of the EDP Calvin Klein Women. If you like Light Blue by Dolce & Gabbana, you would like this. I have Dolce Garden, and I got this at Ross for $10. I have Ajmal Hot Cora Wood in a decant. This is a beautiful citrusy oud. From Caswell Massey, I have Peony, Orchid, and Rose. From Floral Street, I have Wonderland Peony. Talked about this one last week. Some more from Caswell Massey. I have Marem, I have Almond, and this one I can never tell what this name is supposed to be. It's some numbers. I'll put it on the screen. I have some travel sizes from Noteworthy. I have 602, 232, 057, and 866. 3 travel sizes from Confessions of a Rebel. This is Thirst Trap, Get a Room and Order Champagne, and Oh Yes. I have the special edition travel size of Ace Ace Baby from Sniff. I have some travel perfume drops from Marc Jacobs. This is Marc Jacobs Daisy, Daisy Love, and Daisy Oh So Fresh, and let me show you guys what they look like on the inside. So these are biodegradable little capsules that you can just chuck in your bag, pop one open, and it's an alcohol-free based formula, so it comes out like a gel, and these containers are recyclable aluminum. And lastly, I have Vanille Bonbon by Adopt, and I complimented a girl at a show on her perfume, and she pulled it out of her bag and just gave it to me. So apparently this is a French brand. Okay friends, that's gonna wrap up today's video. I have been filming the entire day. I'm exhausted. I'm already in my robe. I didn't show you guys my oils or my lotions because this video is already going to be incredibly long and I am so freaking exhausted. So if you guys want to see that, let me know. And otherwise, I'll see you next week, 10 a.m. PST. Love you guys, and until then, take care of yourselves, my friends.